Hello, everybody. What you're about to see are pre-taped segments I did for the Without Your Head horror podcast Best of 2023. I was unable to be there live for the show, so I pre-taped my segments and they were interspersed throughout. An important note is that I forgot to include the 2023 The Toxic Avenger. I was starting to get a bad cold or the flu, and my mind was getting fuzzy, and I forgot to include it. Also, after the tape segments mentioning a few honorable mentions, there are a bunch of others I'm going to add after that I feel are important and should have been mentioned. Again, I was not feeling my best, even though I looked wonderful. And my mind was kind of starting to drift a little bit. Anyway, sit back, have some cheesecake, and enjoy. Hello, everyone. Todd Quality Jaeger here. And thank you to Neil and Annabelle for inviting me to be on this special. I am sorry I am at work right now, so you get this pre-taped loveliness. Linger on it. Now, if you were to ask me my favorite film, that would be Static from 1985. My favorite drama, Resurrection with Ellen Burstyn. And my favorite comedy/musical, The First Nudie Musical from 1975. But when asking me to list my favorites of 2023 from 13 to 1, it's hard for me to separate them like that. To me, that would mean 13 was the least of the bunch. No, these are all good. So I'm choosing them at random and going from 13 to 1. There's some honorable mentions, and they will be explained why they're there when we get to that point. I also want to infuse my usual cheesecake man. Cheesecake. I hope you all have yours. That should be a thing for these podcasts, I'd say. And, oh, hey, decorating things a little bit. The Visitor, or Stridulum. Oh, an all-time fave of mine. Oh, and look what we have here. My 1986 Nick Kershaw calendar. Wouldn't it be good? Alrighty then. For number 13, Vesper. This one is directed by Cristina Buggetti and Bruno Sampler. A young girl during a time of ecological disaster is on her way to one of these enclosed perfect cities. She has a cure. She has an answer to set things back on track. And people are protecting her. People are after her. It's very drama-based, but the more surreal it gets, that works out better than trying to stick with a more direct approach, more scientific, logical thing. It sticks more towards an unusual angle that makes it just engaging. So that is my number 13, Vesper. Oh, my turn again. Miss me already? Oh, look what we have here. Now, these are all original one sheets, by the way. Here's Jerzy Skolimowski's The Shout with Alan Bates, Susanna York, and Tim Curry. One of my all-time faves. And my goodness, the 1977 Space 1999 calendar. These all involve the UK, of course, which leads me to number 12, Ghost Crew. From Hex Studios, director Laurie Brewster, who is the mind behind Hex, and the resurrection of Amicus. Basically, Tom Staunton is part of a paranormal crew, does those reality ghost hunting type shows, and he and his partner learn about a secret from long ago on the outskirts of town that they get in over their heads. And it also involves starring the lovely Megan Tremethick. Big fan. And this edition, it's so cool. It's so cool. Autographed too. Number 12, Ghost Crew from Scotland. Hey, welcome back to me. Oh, goodness, this time the Suspiria VHS release poster from Magnum Video back in the mom and pop video days. And oh yes, looky here, 1979 heavy metal calendar. Now, I've been reading Heavy Metal magazine since its first issue in 1977. I was not pleased with the movie. That's another story. But after all these years, just recently I had to give it up. $15 a month. Number 11, Founders Day. Directed by Eric Bloomquist. Now there's going to be the inevitable comparisons to Scream and, of course, Thanksgiving. But this film officially was done and screened a bit in 2023, so that's why I'm considering it this year. And so you can't say it copied Thanksgiving. It's not even the same thing as Scream, but it is better than all of Scream's sequels combined. Yeah, Founders Day. Someone in a weird judge wig and mask running around with a very incredible gavel. You'll see what that is when you see it. And people are getting killed. There are secrets. Who's the killer? Everyone's a suspect. In a way, it is very much an American giallo, or Canadian. Anyway, Founders Day. I've been recommending this highly to anyone who was just strolling into Thanksgiving and thinking that was the greatest thing ever. Founders Day. Yeah. Okay. We're at number 10. And this just keeps changing. Ken Russell's Salome's Last Dance. I was going to put up the poster for Lair of the White Worm, but that one rolled and would not have been as easy to put up as this one. But still, it's beautiful. And now, I'm not exactly a huge fan of A Clockwork Orange, but I have this original lobby card up here on display to make y'all freaking jealous. On to number 10, Megalomaniac. Directed by Karim Rouelage. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. A French language film from Belgium. A brother and sister living in a decrepit mansion. And while the sister does go out to work in a factory, she's very much a prisoner in her home when she's there. And she's a prisoner at work because she's abused by co-workers. A lot about having something of your own. A pet, if you will. This even involves cannibalism. It's disturbing. It's dark. It's grim. I fell in love with it. That's my number 10, Megalomaniac. Not to be confused with Megalomart. Hippie Dick, designed by Neil Jones. That's yours truly. And get yours today. Well, look, the original impressive one sheet for Maniac. Something, huh? We're on to number 9, but guess what? This is a special double feature. Renfield and Sympathy for the Devil. 2 maniacal Nicolas Cage films. Renfield, directed by Chris McKay with Nicolas Cage, Nicholas Hoult, and just insane. A bloody, rollicking good time. Oh yes, Awkwafina's in there too. Always a plus. Sympathy for the Devil, directed by Uval Adler. I hope I pronounced that right. And that is Nicolas Cage and Joel Kinnaman. It's basically a two-hander, a two-person movie. And it's intense, it's insane, and it's amazing. That's number 9. Thanks, guys. Like you're really talking to me. Oh, yes. The Anthony Perkins opus, Edge of Sanity. Mwah. Delightfully sick and quite classy. On to number 8. Video Shop, Tales of Terror. I got number 45 out of 250. It is an anthology done right by several directors, including M.J. Dixon, Michael Fausti, Sam Mason Bell, and others. It's just a load of fun. Martin W. Payne is the proprietor of the Video Dungeon, and all sorts of wondrous, weird things happen. And wow, watch out for that Paula Valentine. She stars in everything. And I'm proud to say that I've collaborated with Martin W. Payne. He's in my short film, This Is How. This is a great anthology. There have been so many anthologies lately, but this one, it's a hoot. Hey guys, next time we get together, how about a game of Sling and Slot? I've had this since 1973. On to number 7. Hey, this one has Polyester's original one-sheet poster up there because this was not a drag movie. And that is what I'm getting about the one I really love this year, Big Easy Queens. That is directed by Aaron Dalton, and it's just a wonderful, colorful, kind of giallo, but humorous with musical numbers. It's got everything. And in this, the people in drag are actually to be believed as female characters, like Divine was. It's 2 mob bosses in New Orleans. They're both female, thus Big Easy Queens, or, you know, the double entendre. And it involves voodoo and just all kinds of things. It's gory, it's funny, it's entertaining, and it made me smile. I had so much fun with this one, which is why I'm also including in number 7 the short film Fucking Nuts, directed by Sam Fox, because that would make a wonderful short film to play right before Big Easy Queens. And Fucking Nuts is basically about a gal, Sandy, who's basically breaking up with her boyfriend because she's not wanting to introduce him to her parents because things just don't work out when she brings a guy home. And you'll see, this one had me smiling. These two together basically made my year. Just a great time. You got to see these, and it's not as easy to see Fucking Nuts because short films don't have such a wide way of getting access to them. But this one also indeed made me happy, like when I saw Astral Plane Drifter. And that one, I gotta say, is amazing because Mike Caravella has turned it into a feature film, which will be out in the spring of 2024. And yours truly plays 2 roles in it. But Astral Plane Drifter, what I'm getting at, was one of those short films that was a surprise. It made you smile. Fucking Nuts did the same thing. And then right into Big Easy Queens. Who needs sex when you got this much fun? Okay, that was number 7. Hello again. And as you can gather by the eerie poster for The Last Wave, we're getting into something really, really unusual. And number 6 is Oh, that's Country Bears in Heat. What's that doing there? Number 6, Hypochondriac, directed by Addison Heineman. This one portrays an LGBTQ angle that's very positive despite its unsettling and disturbing content. The characters in this one, the gay male characters, are non-stereotypical. They're regular guys, and I really appreciated that. Just like in Big Easy Queens, as outrageous as that was, the LGBTQ characters were not outrageously flamboyant, stereotypical finger-snapping Yas Queen girlfriend types. These guys were relatable. Anyone could actually relate to them. And this one deals a lot with mental health issues, which is fascinating. And in this, Zach basically has some health issues, and he's basically losing function of his body. And at the same time, he's haunted by these childhood trauma memories, and it just all gets intertwined, and it's eerie. And I had been looking forward to this one, and I was not disappointed. That's Hypochondriac. Number 6. You like my original one sheet for Phantasm? That tells you how old this thing is and how old I am. Call me daddy. But anyway, we're down to number 5. This one, A Creature Was Stirring, directed by Damien Levick. This one, it's 4-person cast. They're all very important in it. Chrissy Metz, Annalise Basso, Scout Taylor Compton, and Connor Paolo. This one is drenched in deep giallo colors. It's like a thing in its own in this movie, and it's visually impressive. It's also very, very psychological. You see creatures, you see edges of things like that, and you know something's going on, but the twist has divided audiences. Now, I don't know what the problem is here. I loved the twist. You get one critic possibly saying, that was a cheap gimmick. And then you have some people who want to feel important by jumping on that bandwagon, like they did with Session 9. You see a lot of people on IMDb going, hey, we needed more backstory for the characters. There wasn't enough. Well, you don't want a 3-hour movie. This one, everything was where it should be. And just like M. Night Shyamalan movies, and even I'm Dreaming of a White Doomsday, you get this twist that is a surprise. People complained about The Village, for instance. I love that twist. I thought it was great. And like 1987, The Caller. starring Malcolm McDowell. Yoink! That rug is pulled right out from under you, and you're like, oh, this one succeeded. I adore this movie. A Creature Was Stirring. Or A Creature Is Stirring, rather. It's the same thing. That's my number 5. Not need much explaining on this one. Says it all. When a Stranger Calls. Remember seeing that? And now some people may think it's tame, but when we saw it in the theater, man, people were jumping out of their seats. It was that effective. Hey, that was the 70s. And for number 4, The Harbinger. Something of a very big surprise to me, too. It's from director Andy Mitten, who has a certain flair in everything he's done, like Yellow Brick Road, We Go On, and The Witch in the Window. There's a bit of a slow pace to this one, but it's so deep. I was drawn in. I really enjoyed where this was going. You really cared for these people because it takes place right when COVID hit. Everything was uncertain. Everyone was terrified. The scene where they're wiping down all their groceries that were delivered. Boy, I remember that. It's like, are we supposed to do this? Is this necessary? It was all up in the air, and it was scary. And you could feel that in this film. It really, really is like an acid flashback, even though it was only a couple years ago. Now, during this COVID time, Monique goes to stay with a friend. They could be under quarantine because her friend is plagued with nightmares and feels that she needs someone to be with her. And, well, unfortunately, it sets off one of these connection things, sort of like, well, hey, they're not exactly the same, but you got films like When Evil Lurks and Talk to Me. Those kind of elements where it can connect and go further with each person. It's terrifying. And The Harbinger is moody. It's a bit sad. And I have to say, I got a bit emotional by the end of it. All around wonderful film. The Harbinger, directed by Andy Mitten. That is my number 4. You bet. Now, weirdness. Yes, I like weird. Just like when I first saw Heart of Midnight, I was like, what is this? Wow. That makes an impression. I will say, though, the Blu-ray releases and such of Heart of Midnight are the US theatrical cut. What I would like to have on an official disc is the European cut that's 10 minutes longer, has a little bit more Brenda Vaccaro in it. She's always cool. We're on to number 3. Pure weirdness is what I'm getting at, and you get this in a bag full. And my number 3 is Poor Things, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, Rami Youssef. Rami Youssef. I was mesmerized by his beard. I just can't get his name right. But anyway, I do so love Poor Things. I'm going to read to you what I said about this, because this is exactly my sentiments. I do so love Poor Things that I want to marry it. A story of a woman seeking, learning, adventuring, discovering, finding herself, and empowerment. Emma Stone was brave doing this, and she did it with precision. Her character was unfiltered and kicked ass. And the film was chock full of equal opportunity nudity. I appreciate that. Some might call it pompous frivolity, but I was fascinated the whole time. I actually cried near the end, through to the last moment. Nice. Poor Things is weird, unusual, and I don't think it was weird for weird's sake. It had its own logic. It just made sense to me. And if you didn't get it, whatever. So anyway, Poor Things, definitely one of my faves this year. And for my random placement, it's number 3. Welcome back to yours truly, Hippie Dick. Hey, speaking of, have you ever wanted to see Doctor Who naked? Well, in Pasolini's The Canterbury Tales, Tom Baker takes a stand-up bath. It's hot. This doesn't really directly relate to my number 2 film, but this one sheet is incredibly rare, and I'm proud to have it. Number 2, It Lives Inside, directed by Bishal Dutta. It's about an Indian-American teen who unwittingly unleashes a demon when she has a falling out with her best friend. This one does have that element of passing on, like When Evil Lurks and The Harbinger and Talk to Me. But this is something directly related to Indian culture. It's fascinating. We've never seen films like this. And I gotta say, for a PG-13, the swing set scene is unnerving. I was, really effective. It Lives Inside is one of those nice surprises. It's intense, it's interesting, and it's smart. So it's different than a lot of horror movies that just kind of give you the stabby tit thing. This is a work of art. It Lives Inside. That is my number 2. You're here for my number 1, aren't you? But first, I want to say a thank you to Neil and Annabelle for inviting me to be a part of the Without Your Head family. I've been having a blast. I always thought I was going to be doing these little, 10-minute reviews, but they're turning into variety shows. The whole ball started rolling a couple years ago with Toilet Zombie Baby Strikes Back. Proud to be in that. Watch out for the post-credit scene. My short film, This Is How, is on the Dark Side releasing Blu-ray of Tortured Parts 2 and 3. That one stars Martin W. Payne as well as in the short. Now, Psycho Ape, along with myself, Neil, is in Psycho Ape 2. Be on the lookout for that. It's a future cult classic. I voiced 2 actors in Demiziano Cristoforo's For Halloween. And, of course, my claim to fame, rural erections. If you want a meal instead of a snack, number 1, this is my number 1 favorite this year, When Evil Lurks. That's directed by Demian Rugna, and it's from Argentina. Now, like Mexican horror, Argentinian horror can be very cerebral, very deep. Even their dramas, like Dry Wind, which is a favorite of mine, are just so, they're amazing. This film has such deep dread. There's a lot of hopelessness. It hits the viewer very hard, but it's all incredibly rewarding. two brothers basically are trying to get rid of a demon-infected man, and they unintentionally just keep spreading the problem further and further to other people and to an entire community and beyond. This one is, well, it's grim, but it's one of the most amazing horrors you will see. And for me, in such a long time, seen a lot of good ones over the years, but this one took me by surprise. And I'm very, very, very grateful for that. So my number one, and it is definitely the number one for 2023, is When Evil Lurks. Honorable mentions time. Todd style. Notice my big Fellini. City of Women. So bizarre. And that's why I'm so drawn to it. There are 3 titles to mention here in this category. The first is actually 2. The Once and Future Smash and End Zone 2 from Michael J. Epstein and Sofia Coppola. Now, the reason it's not on the main list, because I didn't know if it counted for 2023. I saw a screening in October 2022. Other screenings and festivals showings gained momentum through 2023, and then an official disc release and such in 2024. So it would be tops in my list for this year, but I wasn't sure how I could count it. So it's there. Michael, Sophia, please put me in one of your projects one day. Hey, throw me in there with Bill Whedon. We make a great team. The next title is Fang from Richard Bergen. Now, admittedly, I haven't seen it yet. I didn't get a chance to see a screener. So, from what I trust, from what I've heard, especially from Neil and Annabelle, and seeing the podcast with Richard Bergen, I know I'm going to love this thing. Lynn Lowry's in it. I adore her. I am in 2 films that she's in. Demiziano Cristoforo's What Have You Done, Daniel? And Jeff Kakvarinsky's Essence. Yes, that one is coming out. And the third film, Madeline Deering's Bathtub Shark Attack. Now, it is, yes, an ultra, ultra, ultra low budgeter. It has a cheesiness to it, but you can tell everyone was having a great time. I know I caught some flack over a recent shot on video thing, but I can tell you, Bathtub Shark Attack knows what it is and just ran with it. Well, hell, Lynn Lowry's in that one too. So it's a wonderful world. And by the way, Bathtub Shark Attack, when I first saw it, it was like an acid flashback to the 1970s when I was watching the Carol Burnett show, and they did when Jaws came out, which was about a shark that traveled through the plumbing. So it's all a connection, and it's all good. So those are my honorable mentions. Of course, there are some more that should have been mentioned, and I'm going to include them here. Baby Ruby was a nice surprise. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, excellent. A Spoonful of Sugar, wow, bizarre, and I loved it. Cobweb, this one deserved a lot more attention than it got. The very unsettling and powerful Piggy. I'm not usually into religious horror or exorcism stuff, though I loved The Exorcism of God when that came out. Deliver Us. This one went in directions and had content I never expected, including equal opportunity nudity. One that's not to miss. And though these may have been before 2023, they kind of didn't get really noticed until then and drifted into 2023. Son and You Are Not My Mother. Now, notice the covers are a little bit similar. Something to ponder. Just like the toaster works fine. I just don't like toast. Hey, I really wish I could have been there for you guys today and interacted and just made your show a lot more weirder. But you got this. So thank you all. I'm Todd Quality Jaeger for Without Your Head. Cheesecake, man. Cheesecake. Well, all I can say is, whoo, now that's over. It's time to get naked.